All right, welcome to the relationship show. This guy writes this post, I hate being bald so damn much. So this guy might have a little different perspective than, say, like me, because my bald ass head. So we'll see what he's got to say. He says, I reluctantly started shaving my head about 6 months ago due to hair loss. The loss pattern was from the front, so despite having a full head of hair from the temples back, it was looking ridiculous. So I decided it was less stressful to go through being bald than to keep worrying about going bald. Yeah, I mean, when you get worried about how you're looking and if you're not all perfect and all that stuff, it's like, well, oftentimes that can come across as insecure. And so oftentimes you'll see, like, I don't know, the perspective of like masculine men not worried about their looks. It's really more to do with not being insecure about themselves. It's like being masculine is about being more decisive, not really giving a shit, really being direct, to the point, outcome driven. Whereas if you're worried about like how good you look and things like that, it's just, again, can come across as insecurity and not being really stable. And really, if you can own yourself, whether you're going bald or whether you are bald, that's really much more important to women. Is like, if you own yourself and you're confident with yourself, and you see value in yourself versus coming from a place where you don't see value in yourself, where you think you're not good enough. It's a big difference, big change in how it makes her feel. And ultimately, it's like, well, guys sometimes think that women care more about looks. They do very much care about looks, but it's not usually the biggest thing. It's usually about how you make her feel. And also, success and, things like that matter too. But like, guys really put a high level of importance on women being very beautiful. So it's like sometimes they'll just think that it reciprocates, and women think that the same, in the same regard. So that if they don't like have enough hair or whatever it is that you're insecure about, then they're thinking, oh, well, no one will ever like me. And they get in this pattern. It's just really not true. So it's like, if you're a dude, you're losing your hair, it's like, well, so what? It's just like, own that and you'll have much better results as far as attracting women. He says, dating success has dropped to 0 ever since. If it's dropped to 0, it's because you're not trying. So it's not necessarily that you're losing your hair or that you feel like you're less attractive or whatever. It's because you feel this. It's because you're acting in ways that suggest you're not worthy, that you're not confident, that you're just like degrading away and you're losing all this stuff. So it's like, people don't want to be with other people that are just constantly focusing on, what's wrong with themselves and just not placing a lot of value. And that seems to be your problem, not necessarily the physical hair loss. He says, used to do pretty well for myself despite being a pretty ordinary looking guy, but this is insane. I'm getting absolutely nowhere fast, and I don't see any way out. I've given up on the apps because I was literally getting no matches. I don't look good bald. I look extra creepy. But the thinning, disappearing hair just looked worse and was a very stressful and visible reminder. The shape of my head doesn't suit it, and neither does my face. Yeah, I read a book on the appearance. It's called The Appearance of Power. And it talks about like what's attractive to like the human eye. And there's like this ratio, I think it's, if I'm correct, 1.612 ratio between like proportions. That's what like artists use to make like beautiful sculptures or whatever. It's that ratio that's really attractive. So you want that 1.612 ratio from things like your shoulder width to your waist width. That's supposed to be the most attractive. And I went on that whole route, but it's like, one, realize it's not the most important thing. But this just kind of like stemmed that idea. Also, another thing was like, consider beautiful, I guess, was like something like a more oval face. That's kind of like what the Roman ideal was, having more like an oval face. But if you get caught up in these details, it's like, well, yeah, so what? Maybe I got a bigger head or whatever. The point is, just don't focus on that. Don't act fearful or not confident because of those things, or you can do things that, support those ratios. So maybe it's wear a hat or whatever it is to kind of support that ratio. Read that book if you want to go into that in more detail. I probably won't get into it because I don't believe it's the most important thing. I think that being successful, being mission driven, and making her feel good are much more important than looks from the guy's perspective. The guy meaning the guy not looking the best, but he has those other things, not necessarily from like the woman's perspective. Oftentimes guys really value beauty a lot. But anyway, I'll continue on here. The worst part isn't the hair, it's the collateral damage. You lose all the good photos with hair you could use on profiles, the one in post in the past where you were actually happy to be photographed, and there's no opportunities to take good ones anymore, given that a 30s pandemic social life is life. Yeah, or the fact that you're just not smiling and not acting like you have a good time in, the photos that you take. That probably has more to do with it. More to do with you not getting matches. You're probably taking all serious photos in like a shaved head, and I don't know. It's just like really love and all the relationships. It's like a lot to do with just being playful and being fun, not necessarily taking things so seriously all the time or being fearful. Yeah. And when I do try and take photos or one is taken, I can't bear the look at them. Once you realize that looks aren't as important to women, it's like you adopt this attitude as like, so what? So it's like, well, I have all these other qualities. And so once you adopt that so what attitude, gives you so much more strength in situations like that. And you really own yourself. And when you convey that you really own yourself, people don't really mess with you, or they don't like make fun of you or things if you own whatever it is you have. But usually if you don't own it, that's when people start to attack you or make fun of you or whatever it is, more so. He says, I finally learned to love myself and feel attractive in my mid-20s and had the dating success to back it up. And now all that growth has been taken from me. Yeah, and so all pain, really, if you go deep in it, it goes down to a sense of loss. So it's like oftentimes we feel the hurt of it, we feel this, but it's like ultimately, if you look at it, it's like in our minds, we feel like we lost something, and that's why we're experiencing pain, and this is what this guy's experiencing now. I hate being bald so much. I realized the other day it's been 18 months since the last time I had sex or any kind of physical intimacy, and it's killing me. I've started to worry I'll forget how. How the fuck do you turn things around when your appearance changes so suddenly you don't know yourself anymore? Well, you just don't give a shit, dude. I've gone from finally accepting the adult I was to once again hating my own reflection and the reminder every time I see it. My confidence is just gone and I don't see it coming back. So now he's in like this suffering mode because he's like in this place where he doesn't feel like he should be, and he's feeling like there's nothing he can do to change it. But good news for him is there is something to do to change it, and that is actually, well, it's really not changing it. It's just like owning it and not really acting or dressing or whatever it is that support you being insecure about that. It's like if you can just own it, there's your solution out right there. Am I just supposed to lower my standards now I'm suddenly less attractive? I mean, I wouldn't say that. I would say maintain or even raise your standards and then just take the action to get better at relationships. A lot of this stuff is learned and very, very few people actually understand it. So if you can understand how relationships work, then you'll have an edge over probably 99% of all the other men out there who don't know what they're doing.